I'm very excited about today's guest. Her name is Dr. Yael Dubin, and she has an interesting history. She is a former psychiatrist and educator turned dating and relationship coach. I see you, and I'm letting you in. All right, so thank you so much for coming on, Dr. Yael Dubin. I'm going to call you Yael after this. But can you tell people a little bit of your background and also how you don't need to get into too much detail, but you're a member of the Been There, Got Out Club.
I am such a member of the Been There, Got Out Club. So here's the shortest story I can tell. I was a psychiatrist. I got divorced. My divorce was final in 2003. In 2002, I had been sexually assaulted by a former client. In 2007, my former spouse turned that story around and went after my medical license. I knew he was going to go after the kids and that he was just trying to handicap me in every way he could. So I was making plans to get out of my practice anyway. So I surrendered my medical license, went in a direction that made me happier, and he continued to harass me for years after that. Like I kept thinking every move, if I just, give in and do this, he's gonna go away. I didn't have a coach like you to help me through this. And I was in the Been There, Got Out club that I didn't want to get married. So 16 years, I never wanted to get married again because I thought, I barely survived this one. If somebody does this again, I will not make it back to my feet. I can't do this. And in 2018, I saw this amazing show called Schitt's Creek. If you don't know it, totally watch it. I love the show.
I love that show.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites.
Yeah. So I watched David and Patrick fall in love and I watched them fight, which was a totally different argument than I ever had in my life. I'm like, that's what I want. I want that. And you know what? I don't want that guy to be the only spouse I ever have. I deserve better. I deserve a happy relationship. So I got in with a dating coach, met the love of my life, and many other things have transformed in the interim. And I am really happy to be here with you to share whatever I can that will make your current part of this path a little easier. I've just known Lisa for a handful of days now, and even just looking at the Instagram feed, everything you all are going through, definitely I have been there. I'm out, and my kids are now in their 20s and early 30s, and they're still dealing with the aftermath of this ugliness. So if I can help in any way, I know I'm helping you and your kids in a super impossible situation.
Well, that's what we need help with the most. And as you were describing your story, I thought, even though our clients and our community are probably not even thinking about dating, most of them, some of them already have and are in new relationships. But so much of coming out of these relationships is we lose our faith in ourselves.
Yeah.
And we don't trust our judgment. And that's why we think I can never move forward because I don't have good judgment and it's going to happen again. And so we won't get into
that guy. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we won't, that's like for a whole other conversation, but it sounds like part of what you do now is you help people learn to trust themselves again, because it's not trusting other people, it's trusting yourself.
100%. That is really the only person you need to trust in a room is yourself, and you need to trust your ability to read people. And what I'm going to talk about today in the window of tolerance is going to help you do that.
Oh, that's excellent. Okay, so let's get to it. What is this window of tolerance?
So the window of tolerance is an idea that describes basically how our bodies are physiologically reacting to certain things that are going on around us and within us. So if you can imagine a linear scale from 1 to 10, if you're at a 1 to 3 on the scale, you're shut down and checked out. If you're at a 4, 5, 6, 7, you are calm, connected, you are present, you're really attuned to this person across from you. You have your wits about you. You can think on your feet. And if you're an 8, 9, 10, you're agitated. You're either scared or angry, and you are like crawling out of your skin, lashing out at other people, really feeling angsty, I guess, for lack of a better word.
And so 10 is not the optimum.
10 is not optimum. The middle is optimum.
Okay.
So
before you keep talking, can you describe the 1 to 3, when you say people are shut down, can you give some examples of what that might feel like?
Yeah, it would feel like not having energy. It feels like not having an attention span. It feels like you want to stay in your pajamas all day, watch TV, play games on your phone. You can't really interact with people. When you do, you're distracted. Yeah, you're really shut down. Can't make decisions, easily confused, not taking in information. From the outside, it looks like you're lazy. You
Mm.
look unavailable. You are emotionally unavailable. And some people, especially if you're like at a 3, you look like you're there, but you're not. And other people like, what's wrong with you? Like, what's the matter with you? And easily forgetting things, lack of really memory's bad. And I spent a lot of time there, and that was a place that I would easily get to after a phone call or email from my ex. And
What you are
then
describing, sorry to interrupt, and you'll see that I do this a lot, but you're making me think of things. So you are describing the state that so many of our community is in right now, and they are in the midst of a family court situation where they are unable to deal with information, not wanting to look at emails, impossible to organize financials, and they're just stuck and paralyzed, and they have to make very significant decisions while they're in this state where it's impossible. Where, like you're saying, they can barely get out of bed, and they are also being re-traumatized often by non-trauma informed professionals, including their own attorneys at times, who are saying, can't you just get this done? Just focus. Why can't you give this to me? So it's like they're already feeling horrible. And then outside people who are supposed to be their advocates and allies are making it worse because they don't understand the state they're in.
yes, and it's sort of like another. Yeah, I love that. Yes to it all. Yes to it all. Absolutely. Another phrase that I had a therapist at the time he used was collapse. You do feel
Mm.
collapsed, and this is, we hear about fight or flight a lot, and that's one end of this spectrum. Freeze or fawn is another end of the spectrum, and freeze or fawn is super common in relational trauma, relational threats. So what we did for a long time with this person that we're trying to get away from is we placated, we fawned, we wanted to stay on their good side. This was whatever you're going through in your divorce right now. This has been going on. The divorce just makes it a little worse. It's not like it's a new phenomenon. This is why you're getting divorced. Really, in a nutshell. It just gets easier for other people sometimes to see in your life what this abuse is, um, and the impact of it gets a lot harder on you. This collapse state can be used against you as a parent,
Yeah.
and does get used against you as a parent. And this is not a sign that you're calm, and it's not a sign that you're lazy or stupid. It's a sign that you are way over the top stressed.
Makes so much sense.
Fighting and fleeing are not options for you. And so you shut down. You are just completely shut down.
You are talking to lots of people in that state right now, either at this moment or they will watch the recording of this later. So thank you for validating that that's normal.
Yeah. And you're right. Well-meaning people, it feels like battering when they want to shake you and say, why are you collapsed? Why are you just get this done? It feels like battering.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
it's, um,
what do we do? What do people in this state do?
so I know this is going to sound really counterintuitive. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute. I do want to just lay out a couple of other things with the window of tolerance, because I really want to flesh this out fully for people so they get a good handle on what this means. So you're in this is the 1, this is the 10, if you can see my hands.
Yeah.
Down on this end, you're shut down and checked out. You are collapsed. You don't have really good muscle tension, your body is slowed down, but you're really not there. In here is where, like, you're upright, you're calm and connected, you can take in this information. And then here's where you're stressed in an agitated way. Okay. everybody has a window of tolerance and everybody can go from one end to the other. That is natural, normal, and physiology. It's what our bodies are designed to do, is adapt to stress. You can't be here all the time. Okay, so you're going to move to different places of the window in here. What we want to do is we want to get to a place where more stresses can fit inside this 4 to 7 range, that you have more tolerance for the shenanigans that ordinarily get you one end or the other of the spectrum, because it doesn't really matter which end you're on, it will get used against you. And you know that, and I know that. And that also makes the stress worse, honestly. And I can just share really briefly, my niece was murdered, and my ex and I were on our way to mediation a month or two after that. And I knew that somehow, if I got upset about this traumatic loss in my life, that he was going to use it against me. And sure enough, he used something against me related to this, in terms of my need to travel for her funeral, um, indicating that I had lots of money that I could throw at things. So this is not uncommon for people to pull things knowing you're stressed about something and pushing on those buttons to get you.
And something like that, and I'm so sorry
Thank
to
you.
hear that. But especially when you're describing that you were going to mediation, that's one of those situations where you're being pressured to make a significant decision. You want to agree, you want to resolve things, but when somebody attacks you with something like that, it gets you in an emotional state. When you're in a highly emotional state, you cannot make good decisions. So that's a strategy that we see bullies and abusers and their attorneys often use against us, that we have to keep explaining to our community. It's a tactic. How can we help you not let it get to you? So I love what you're talking about here with expand. The window of tolerance stays here, but it can take in more stresses.
Yes, exactly. That's it, 100%. So you're going to notice different things, and it's what you're going to do in these windows. When you're outside the window, you're going to do similar things. Okay. When you're over the top and when you're not over the top, when you're in fight or flight, you definitely want to do relaxation. And that makes sense to everybody. What doesn't make sense is you also need relaxation when you're collapsed, because you are
Yeah.
over the top stressed. You are not stressed. You are, you like a deer in the headlights stressed. And I don't know if I've seen this, like a wildlife video, and this is where Peter Levine got a lot of his ideas. If people are out there are familiar with Peter Levine's work, is watching animals in the wild. And what will happen when a lion chases a gazelle is sometimes the gazelle falls before the lion gets there.
Right.
It just collapses.
It's almost like the anticipatory defeat.
Yes. Yes. And I
Interesting.
and I felt like that gazelle a lot. I don't know if anyone else has seen this amazing video of a zebra that is in a watering hole, and the lion comes to attack the zebra, and it grabs the zebra's face, and the zebra just puts its head down and shoves the lion's head underwater, and the lion lets go and runs away. And I'm like, I want to be like that badass zebra. That's what I want to be.
I didn't
No more
think
gazelle
you were
from
going to
me.
say that. I thought you were going to say the opposite.
Yeah, like I want to be the zebra. Like I don't want to become like this person I'm trying to walk away from. I don't want to become an abuser. I don't want to be an ugly human being. I have a way that I want to walk through the world. So I needed to really expand the amount of things I could fit inside my window of tolerance. And so you're still going to want to do like a relaxation technique. And I know that sounds silly, and it sounds like it can't possibly work, and it sounds so inadequate for what you're going through. But I started my mindfulness practice like the day I left my former spouse. I knew I was going to need to calm my body down. I knew I had to let go of the agitation. You definitely need to practice at least a little bit every day. And if you need some practices, please reach out, and I will send you a couple of really short things and a couple of videos that might help. There's a lot of resources out there. You don't need to even reach out to me, but I have a few things if it's helpful for you. But you need to practice every day. And here's why: because you get better at anything you practice. Simone Biles didn't just pounce into the Olympics one day on a whim. She practiced, and what you're going through is Olympic level torture emotionally. And you need to practice every day. every single day. And I want you to hear that.
Great term. Olympic level torture. I'm writing it down.
Like it is Olympic level. This is not for this is just unbelievable what each of you is going through. Unbelievable. And I don't think I saw myself through those eyes until I heard your stories. So please go there. So PTSD, does this work for PTSD? Maybe, and there are some caveats about mindfulness with PTSD. There's such a thing as trauma-informed meditation, and you might want to look into those specific things if you have PTSD. If you happen to have physical trauma where you have been choked, mindfulness practices are definitely going to have a little bit of difficulty for you because focusing on your breath is going to be hard. You can think about softening your muscles because, believe it or not, even when you're collapsed or shut down, your muscles are tense. And
wow.
you have a headache, you're carrying a lot of tension in your jaw. So softening your muscles, letting that go, because you're basically intentionally triggering other parts of your autonomic nervous system. So you're going to want to do that.
You're getting some questions already.
I
Yeah,
am.
Yael,
I'm
is
seeing
that
that.
how can people get in touch? Do you have a YouTube or podcast? So this is resonating.
Wonderful. Well, not wonderful. I'm really sorry that you guys are going through all of this. I mean, I'm happy that I'm offering something helpful in the middle of this storm in your life. I'm so sorry you're going through it. It's sad to me. Like, I just like to think that what I went through was unique, and it really wasn't. Here's the other thing. I don't know if this is going to resonate with you too, but because no one you know personally is going through it, they don't necessarily understand or believe you. And you're used to having your view of reality questioned. And when you collapse or when you go over the top and lose your shit completely and yell, that you look like the crazy person. So people don't believe you and your reality gets questioned. So um, listening to everyone else's stories and seeing this, I'm like, oh, how come people doubted my reality? This is a whole phenomenon. People do this. Like, how would anyone not know this is what's going on? But they don't know. They don't. So you need that support that Lisa can provide you.
And you too, obviously. Yeah, I was
yeah,
going to say
yeah.
one thing we talk about how when you talk about support, that going through a situation like this requires an enormous amount of support. We often talk about it's like the surface of a table and how friends, and I won't get into that whole metaphor, but
Mhm.
the friends and family part, they love you and they care, but they don't understand because they haven't lived it, and they can inadvertently harm you and make you feel more isolated, maybe making comments like that. Like in our world, it's like, well, why doesn't the judge just do this? Well, why doesn't your ex just do what's in the best interest of the child? Well, why don't, it's like, I don't know. So it's the same kind of thing with this. Why don't you just get out of bed and work on this thing? Why can't you just take 15 minutes and get it done? It's the same. They love you, but they don't understand. And this is why, again, it's so important to get involved with the right support, with trauma-informed professionals who will get what you're going through and be like, I understand. We will figure out how to get through this together instead of making you feel worse and re-traumatizing you.
Absolutely. So that is the next piece actually that is crucial. That is the second thing on my list besides doing a mindfulness practice is get with your tribe. Because what you want to do is calm and connect. We co-regulate each other. So when we're together, we start to regulate one another's heart rate, breathing rate, emotional tone, physiological, like muscle tone. We can feel that. You want to get to a place where you can say, I'm like leaning forward a little bit, and it's sort of natural and feeling comfortable here. So this is kind of where you want to be. You want to find people with whom you feel safe, and you can feel this in your body. You can notice that you can soften your muscles. You can just think about it like, oh, I'd like to soften a little bit. You're like, oh, hey, I got a little bit of softening, and connect. And you want to find your tribe because we do co-regulate each other. And I'm going to just say this, that we actually can do that even over Zoom. Even over Zoom, people can be calming presences for us. So find your tribe, find the place where you are feeling calm and connected, where you get back inside your window of tolerance. There are people that are going to help you be there, but you can't talk about your divorce. That's okay. You don't have to talk about it with everybody. You don't have to go over your parenting issues. You don't have to discuss or reveal what's happening between your former spouse and the kids. You don't have to tell the stories. What you have to do is get in your window of tolerance and practice that. You have to
Right.
know where that is and find it. Be there as much as you can. And you need people who can hear your story and help you stay in your window of tolerance while you're talking about it. So just,
Right. But one thing sorry, yeah, one of the things you don't want is to get involved with people who keep you cycling around the trauma, which is something that happens with a lot of people, especially who you meet on social media. It's just let's complain and do as my friend David Morneau, the recovering litigator, says, is just continue living in the victimhood. You can be there for a while, you can do your research and connect with people, but at some point, do you want to get out of it? Do you want to get into this window of tolerance? Do you want to move forward with your life? And that's why I think we talked about this a little bit. It's not good, I think, to do a lot of doom scrolling and to follow accounts that have terrifying articles about all the terrible things that happen in family court and what's going to happen to your children in awful reunification kit, like those. That's we say if it bleeds, it leads in terms
mm-hmm.
of news, but that's not actually happening as often as you think. Just because there's a lot of noise about it doesn't mean it's something that's going to happen to you. And unfortunately, a lot of clients that we get are terrified by certain accounts that make it feel like this is terrible and it's going to happen to you, but don't offer any actual solution.
You are exactly right. And what I was going to say is that actually part of what gets you out of your window of tolerance is exactly that. Because it's not just what happened to you, it's not just what's happening to you, it's what you see or watch out there happening to other people. So you're going to really want to be careful with your social media feed. You're going to watch what you watch on TV. You're going to really be mindful of the podcasts you listen to. We have mirror neurons in our brains that we attune to other people. And that means that when you're watching CSI and you watch someone get killed, you have mirror neurons that think you're the one getting killed. So don't watch that. You do not need that in your life. Watch things that uplift you, that make you laugh, that make you joyful. Be around things that bring you into that spacious window of tolerance. And you're
Right.
going to mess it up. And you're going to get off your track by whatever. You're going to get a random text from your ex, whatever. You're going to need to practice self-forgiveness.
One thing that we talk about a lot is the need for our people to counterbalance all those stress hormones with the pleasure hormones and finding things that make, like you said, that make them feel good, but also find ways to start having fun because we are dealing with so much stress. Like you said, Olympic level torture, that to continue looking at things that are terrible, you're just making everything worse for yourself. It makes sense. Like you got to balance it. You got to balance it with really good stuff, even though it'll feel like wrong and people feel guilty sometimes. They feel like it's frivolous to do fun things, right?
You totally need it. You totally need to do fun things. Laughter is super important. I'm a big fan of watching comedies. Watch whatever makes you laugh. I personally have to watch super wholesome, uplifting things to make me laugh. Like Parks and Rec was a pretty good one for me. What else? Oh gosh, The Good Place. Things that are really uplifting and wholesome. So that I really needed to not deal with ugliness or toxicity in any form. Like, so dark humor, sarcastic humor wasn't really my thing. So watch things that really feel uplifting. That's what media you should be consuming. Definitely find friends or support groups that validate your reality and move you back to your window of tolerance. That don't stay in the suffering. We don't need to be there.
Right. Schitt's Creek is a great show to watch.
It's awesome. I got that's
right?
like awesome. Beautiful show. Yeah, beautiful show.
And very funny.
It was funny and it's sweet and it's loving. And the character development, the first season's super hard because you really don't like anybody on the show. But the character development throughout the whole season.
I know you're talking to an English teacher who everything is character development. I loved it.
That's great. So, and another idea that was really helpful for me, and I'm just going to throw this one out there in case it's helpful for everyone here, is to recognize when you're in this calm, connected place. I'm an IFS practitioner. When you're in this calm, connected place, that's your self energy. This is the true you. This is your self energy, your core. This is where your strength is. This is where you're courageous, curious, and creative. So you can create solutions to all the things that are being thrown your way when you're inside your window of tolerance. When you
What is IFS?
internal
What is,
family systems.
okay.
So internal family systems is a model of the mind, and it really teaches that inside everybody we have a core self energy where we are, it's characterized by the 8 C's. We're calm, clear, connected, confident, courageous. And that's where you're in your power. And you want to practice being there as much as possible, because there's a saying, self energy begets self energy. So you want to find people who are in that space that kind of vibes with your window of tolerance, where you're calm, connected, creative, and courageous. You want to recognize that the things that are outside, when it seems like you fall out of your window of tolerance, what's happening is actually you got blended or hijacked with a part. And it's a part that's trying to protect you from a threat. It's a part that feels threatened. And those are just parts. That's all. And really inside, always accessible to you, is this window of tolerance. And when you practice coming back to the inside of your window of tolerance many times a day, you get better at doing it so that you can tolerate this Olympic level torture from a place of self and from a place
Now,
of being grounded.
okay, so another thing that many of us have in common here is we have children. And it is, as you know, it is extraordinarily stressful when you're dealing with court legal issues and everyone else to still be a parent. Can you talk about why it's so important also, and how it affects your children, the window of tolerance?
Yes, it's incredibly important because your children, we communicate everything nonverbally. 90% of communication is nonverbal. Your kids know exactly what's going on with you emotionally all the time, all the time. And they're perceiving that when you're feeling threatened or you're collapsed, you're not in self energy. They're in the midst of also being traumatized, which is super hard to remember when you're being traumatized.
Exactly.
And it can even look sometimes, and I'm going to say this for whoever's, it can even look like your ex is successfully turning the kids against you. It can look that way from the outside. So you don't realize that actually they're in the middle of a trauma cycle themselves. They're in survival mode. They're fawning
Yeah.
because they are
Thank you
also
for
being
reminding.
traumatized.
Yes.
So when you're in self energy, you have that. When you're in your window of tolerance, you have that. That's the physiologic energy you have to share with your children, and they need it. That's what they need desperately, because they're still in the middle of being traumatized. And when you have that to offer, no matter what it looks like outside, no matter what it looks like outside, and you might have an ex. In my case, my ex had a lot more money than I did, always did, and also did things to diminish my income so he could buy time and buy attention. And it can
That's
look,
the big common thing here.
yeah, yes, it is. And it can look like it's succeeding on the outside, but the kids inside are fawning. They're desperate to get something they're never going to get from that parent, which is self energy, because that person is not in self energy.
Can you give a couple of examples or stories of, let's say, parenting when you are not in the window of tolerance, like a situation versus the same scenario, but from a parent who is in the window of tolerance?
Yes, I can. So I am going to sort of reach back to some of my own examples, and I can say there were times when I would get a text that was really disturbing, and I perceived the threat, and I perceived that it was coming down the road. I knew it was on the way, and I couldn't be emotionally present. I checked out. I would play games on my computer a little bit, or just be really distracted and making dinner and like not really paying attention. And there might even be times when your kids are acting out because they are being traumatized and it's a really difficult situation. Whatever is going on between them and the other parent, isn't really the love they need. No matter what it looks like on the outside or how effectively they're convincing the court system, it is not what your children need. It's not love. And they know it. They know it in their bones. And when you can remember that whatever is happening with your kids is also their reaction to this trauma, but they too have a window of tolerance, access to self energy, they have this beauty within them, and you can remember that they have that, and you can anchor yourself in this knowledge that this is available to them. It helps them get there.
How can we help kids find that window of tolerance? I mean, I hear you saying we can do it, but I'm like, where do people even start?
Whew. You have to start by getting in it yourself. And it's an invitation, not a coercion. You have to stand in that place and you have to have confidence. And that confidence has to inform everything you do and say with your kids. You have to know that they have this access inside of them, and it's hard to know. That's why go, see above. You're going to need to breathe through it. You're going to need to find your tribe. You're going to need to get support. You're going to need to get yourself into your window of tolerance repeatedly. You're going to have to be loving with the parts of you that get afraid you're going to lose your kids. You love them more than anything. You die for them. But it doesn't, and you feel like that's the one thing that your partner wants to take from you, your former partner wants to take. You're going to have to do this repeatedly. And there are parts of you that are getting stirred up. You're going to have to parent those parts and let them know you're there, and you're going to do the best you can every step of the way. And I am down the road from this. This divorce is now 20 years old, and the harassment maybe has stopped a few years ago, not even that many years ago. Like, it just really went on and on and on. And whenever we have interaction, there's more opportunity for it to happen again. It just happened again a year ago. But your kids know, and they're going to come around. They're going to become adults someday, and they will know that they got the most nourishing emotional connection from you, that you were there for it, and they will find their way back. And you have to know this with every fiber in your being. And you might forget, and then you need to remember.
Or
You
have
have parts
someone
that can
remind you.
have someone remind you. Exactly. And that's why we need our tribe. That's why we need our people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% zebra. Stand there and put their head underwater.
Right.
Put the attacker's head underwater and make them run away. And I can tell you, there's another side to this, and I couldn't see it myself. I didn't have enough people who had been through it in my life who could tell me there's another side, and you will get through this, and they will get through this, and they will still need you as adults to help them fully recover from that.
I mean, that is the topic of the book that Chris and I are working on now, is how to help make your kids be okay. So this is right in there. I was going to say, so we talked a little bit about the scenario of getting, when you're out of the window of tolerance and getting this threatening text and being distracted and everything else. And I totally remember a lot of times I was like that, and I feel guilty about that. But then I've had a member of my tribe say, you were doing the best that anyone could do under those circumstances. Like, this, you're in survival mode. So just remember that. Like, none of us wanted to be less than a stellar parent, but things happen. And like you said, Olympic level torture, most parents, most of the world never has to deal with these things. So can you talk about now, if somebody can learn how to stay in that window of tolerance, how they look different to their children when they get that same scary text?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
So when you get that same scary text, you are still able to be calm and connected with your kids. You have some spaciousness. You might say, hang on a second, I just need a minute. I'll be right back. And you can take that minute, get your physiology back together. You're not faking it, because faking it doesn't fool anybody.
Mm-hmm.
You literally shift your physiology. You allow yourself to release that extra energy. You reassure the parts that feel like it's survival mode that actually you're going to live through the day. And so it's not really about survival. You're okay. Come back to that space, and you're able to be attentive to your kids. You're able to make dinner, have a conversation, share some laughs, and be available.
It's like you
able to
put it off to the side.
You can set that aside for now, because actually it's not a crisis most of the time. It's not something you actually can even respond to right now. It's just them yanking your chain. And you start to learn how to interpret it, and even interpret it for all the parts of you who are scared. And I want to say again and again and again, these are just parts of you. And if you get there and you're like, oh wait, I'm hijacked by a part, I'm blended by a part that thinks this is imminent death. I'm not really dying. Okay, let me go do my practice. That's great. That's beautiful. You can immediately, just knowing it's only a part of you and you have access to this makes it easier to come back to this piece, right? And really be very loving with yourself. You're going to fall out of the window of tolerance. That's the whole game. That's the
That's human.
torture. That's, you are human and they are messing with your humanity. They
Yeah.
are messing with that. They are intentionally threatening you in multiple ways to keep you out of your window of tolerance. So it's Olympic level practice, and every time is just practice. It's just another opportunity to practice. That's all it is. And I understand the feeling guilty because I have I have parts that feel guilty that wish I could have done better. You're always doing the best you can, always, in
Yeah.
every instant. And you have no good options with this person. Like you maybe, like I did, like I walked out of the marriage with very little because I just wanted to stop arguing. I wanted to be done. That didn't stop anything. And
Right.
you do a lot to try to placate. You're freezing and fawning and you're doing the best you can and it doesn't work. And you have no really good option. You're doing the best you can.
Yeah. I mean, when you were talking about also how the kids are tuned into how you are emotionally, I think back to the times that my kids could just see it in my face and they'd say, Mom, are you okay? Or Dad, are you okay? I mean, they didn't say it to me, they said it to Chris, but are you okay? Like, what do you think an appropriate response would be, especially for someone who's in a window of tolerance? I imagine someone not in a window of tolerance would say, actually, no, your other parent is really upsetting me right now, but that's not good for kids.
Yeah. So what I want to really, yeah, you really want to not talk about the other parent to the degree that you can. You want to leave them completely out of that conversation and not talk about it. They know, the kids know what's going on. Mostly what you want to let them know is, I'm adjusting to something right now and I am going to be okay. Right? I'm a little upset, but I'm going to be okay.
Right.
And you want to let them know, and then you want to get yourself okay.
And that's modeling for them how they can also be. So kids can be upset and they're going to work through it and they're going to be okay. Like this is what they see in adults and they realize, okay, when I'm upset, I'm going to be okay too, but it's okay to feel upset. You don't have to quickly just say, oh, I'm going to be fine. Let's just not even deal with it. It's that we might not deal with it fully now, but some people need a break, some people need a breath, and that's human. And we'll get to it at some point, either now for a little bit or later. So
100%. And you really do want to be honest and truthful with your kids so that you're congruent. They feel what's coming from your body and what comes out of your mouth needs to match. If it doesn't match, they don't know who to trust. So
exactly.
you
And then
really
they
want to
don't
be,
trust you.
you're the most likely candidate for actually having a good, trustworthy relationship.
Yeah. Okay, I see a comment here. He texts the kids harassing them when I don't give him a reaction. What about when the person, I don't know if you have experience with this, when the ex does it to the kids, not to you, but to the kids, because that's what hurts you too, is seeing your kids being like, I don't understand why the other parent is saying these things to me, or parroting what the other parent says to attack the target parent.
Yeah, that's a really tough one. And yes, I definitely do have experience with that. And I have experience with my former spouse pitting the kids against each other when one of them tried to stand up for themselves um, and not tolerate the harassment anymore. So yes, I definitely have that. And I think that's another place where physiology first and then response second, because from that place of clarity and calm, you're going to know how to respond to that. And mostly you can't directly counter because that just confuses them. Sometimes you can ask, oh, yeah, it starts to feel like tug of war. Exactly. It starts to feel like they're like tug of war. And a lot of times you just hold space. Oh, you think that? Oh, so what is that like for you? Okay. Huh. I wondered, what other evidence about that do you have? What?
Right. And it's also not focusing on getting the truth out to the kids, but it's validating their feelings. Oh, you think that? Okay, why do you think that? I think there's a lot of opportunity for kids to help kids develop critical thinking skills. I mean, I used to be a high school English teacher, so everything was about developing critical thinking skills, like start learning to question. So if you're saying I believe this because these other people told me, they're going to be dealing with those kinds of things from friends too. So you want them to be able to talk to you about it and say, how did you come to that conclusion? Let's talk about it. Be the parent that they can talk to, but not
Hmm.
where they feel like if they talk to you, you're going to be so hurt or angry that it's better not to go to you and have them be completely alone.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So you want to be the person they can talk to. And that's where physiology first and staying in your window of tolerance physiologically is going to be super important. Remembering that you have access to this, they have access to this, and this does get clear eventually. And the more time you spend there, the better for your kids. And it's not possible to be there 24/7, 365. You're going to fall out, come back, fall out and come back. It's totally okay. Because when you fall out and you criticize yourself about being out of the window of tolerance, that does nothing to get you back into it.
Right. And again, this is so important because we're role models for our children. And by regulating ourselves, we can teach them how to regulate themselves because they're dealing with, like you said, so much. And often we are not physically there to help them get through something. So our role, our job is to teach them the skills so that when they are not with us, they can also process things and say, okay, this feels like this. This is what my safe parent taught me. I can validate my own feelings. I'm allowed to be human. I can learn how to take a break or do whatever it is I need to do to get myself through this. I can find my own tribe of support.
Hmm. Yeah, and that's
Teach them to ask for help as well.
yes, teach them to ask for. And that's the other thing. I like intentionally created community around my kids. I intentionally brought them into community situations, into my congregational life, so they had adults with them. I made sure that they had access to other grown-ups. I would have people over for dinner. We and really kept them engaged with other people who could mentor and support
Yeah, same. Because
them because they need it.
I always feel like so grateful to the other people in our children's lives that helped raise them.
Mhm, mhm. Absolutely. It
Yeah.
totally takes a village. It really does.
It really does, especially with these kinds of situations. So finding your tribe and finding people that will support you. I also say it's important to trust your gut when you're dealing with professionals. If something doesn't feel right, just because somebody else recommended them doesn't mean that it's right for you. So really
Mhm.
pay attention to how the rapport that you establish with the professionals that you work with. Not that they have to say yes to everything you think, but just that you feel okay. You don't feel like something is wrong and you're just talking yourself through and saying it's fine, it's fine, it's fine. Like that's not
Yeah,
good.
no, and that's like really 100% the only person you need to trust in a room is yourself. You need to get congruent within yourself, stay within your window of tolerance, because when you're in that space of congruence where your thoughts, words, and physiology are all in a line, your thoughts, words, and being align, you can feel that in other people. You can feel when they're
Mm-hmm.
aligned and when they're not. When something feels off, totally trust your gut. Your body, and that's really one of the key things about the window of tolerance. Is this is about your this is from polyvagal theory. It's about your vagus nerve, and it's about the fact that your vagus nerve and your whole body is always scanning for safety constantly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's letting you know if you're safe or not. It's really always doing that. And so if you get the feeling something's off, trust your gut because your gut has about a third as many neurons as your brain has. It is definitely reading the room. And you want to trust that reading 100%. And you don't have to know why, and you don't have to explain yourself. All you have to say is, oh, I'm not comfortable going forward with this right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still exploring options. And the right person, a solid, trustworthy person should accept that.
Yeah, when you said that about still exploring options, I was interviewing a friend of ours who's a therapist named Chelsea Brooke Cole, who just came out with a book, and she was saying one thing to think about is to decide not to decide. So to not feel pressured to make an immediate decision. And I love how what you just described is really like, I'm still exploring options. Let me think about it. Like it's okay to delay with certain things like that.
100%. And then you want to make that when your decisions when you're within your window of tolerance.
Right. and to recognize when you're not. So
Absolutely.
especially when in mediation or court situations, like we tell our people, you don't want to feel completely pressured to make any quick decisions. It's always good if you're feeling uncomfortable. If you're confident, that's a different story. That's wonderful. But if you're feeling uncomfortable, pause. There's rarely a time when you need to decide immediately, because it's going to be you and your kids and your family that are going to live with the consequences, and everyone else is just going to move on to the next case.
Yeah, which is often why they're pressuring you to make a decision right now, because they just want to
They
move
want
on
to
to the
move
next
on.
case. You don't have to do what they want you to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So let's see, Yael, did we cover everything we wanted? Is there anything else you want to say, or do you want to tell people how to find you? Because I know they want to hear more from
Yeah.
you.
So I want to say, first of all, I hope you can see me here on Instagram. Please follow me on Instagram. You can reach out with a message right here on Instagram, and I will get back to you with my link. There will be, I'll put my link tree in this comment section, so you'll have all the ways of getting in touch with me if you'd like to be in touch.
Yes. And thank you so much. This was enlightening as well as uplifting, especially because it validates the experience that so many of us are going through. So thank you again so much, especially for the last minute live. This worked beautifully.
It was wonderful. Thank you all. And I just want you to know I'm holding you all in my heart. This is what you're going through, really is literally Olympic level mental torture. And you are not alone.
Yeah. Thanks, Yael. Okay, I'll talk to you later. And thanks everybody for watching. Bye.
Bye.